Okay.
We got the, where's the... We got the one that's on this side here. Right there. And make sure this is doing what it's supposed to do. Well, I just handle with a single family home. Forward, backwards, or forward, backwards. Either way, I got you. And I guess you can both do this too. Yeah. Then you know what you got. Exactly. Press the wrong thing and you're in la la land. Thank you. Guys, we're going to go ahead, even though we don't have very many people here right now, I'm hoping some more people will show up. I just want to thank you for another session of the Santa Barbara Real Estate Investor Association meeting. And we've got Tim Norris here from the National Real Estate Insurance Group. I want to thank you very much for showing up. Thank you. And for the information about the convey. So, a little for Tim. Yeah, I haven't spoken yet. You shouldn't be talking. I'm sure you're mine. Is that how it works? I appreciate the time. I appreciate the next 4 hours you give me to talk about insurance. We'll be here, what, 4 hours? That'd be great. Insurance, 4 hours? Nothing wrong coming to a pizza place, loading up on carbs and listen to an insurance guy speak. That'll knock everybody up. Well, anyways, as Dan said, I'm the president of the National Real Estate Insurance Group. And give you some quick background. I'm not going to bore you to death with the personal details, but been in the insurance business 20 years now, so I started when I was 8. Tough crowd. Yeah, 8 years old. Tough crowd. Was a nationwide insurance agent for about 17 years. Met my wife in training school. They've done a pretty good sized agency in the state of Ohio with a few other states over about a 15-year period. Got involved with real estate investors about 11 years ago at the Cincinnati REIA Group. Went to a REIA meeting dressed like this, the first one. I met with one of my clients. And he owned about 50 single-family properties, and I said, Dan, what do you think? Should I go? How do I get involved with real estate investing? I want to do know a little bit more about what you do. He said, well, the first thing you probably need to do is join the REIA group. So that's what I did. I joined the REIA group and showed up at the first meeting dressed like this, a little overdressed. And one of the first people I met there was a lady named Deb McMillan. She's also known as the short sale queen. She's actually a local REIA person with us. And she said, we haven't had an insurance agent involved here in quite a while. And I looked around the room, and this was back in the heyday. This was in Cincinnati, and there were probably 600 people at a REIA meeting at that time. This was, especially at the vendor shows and all that, we get 600-700 people. And looked around the room, I figured, well, these are people investing in non-owner occupied properties. My theory was, well, they probably own nice cars, they probably own some houses and all that. You think insurance agents would be all over. So I looked at her and I said, well, what's the scoop? Apparently, they had an agent that was involved in a group that was taking people's premiums but wasn't buying any coverage. Oh, so your credibility tends to shrink significantly after that occurs once or twice. Well, anyway, found out what she was bucking for, more or less, was for me to put $300-400 into a vendor table at the upcoming vendor show. Well, I did just that. I convinced one of my staff people. I said, Jill, I'll tell you what, if you work with me this night for 4 hours, I'll give you an extra day off. No problem. She was all into it. And no kidding, there were people 3 or 4 deep lined up talking to us about insurance issues, because I don't think traditionally the independent agent on the street corner, once you get past 1 or 2 rentals, you start getting into some odd things, buying a flip or buying something that you're going to wholesale, the traditional insurance companies get a little bit, back off a little bit. So I thought, well, as I said a few minutes ago, Yogi Berra said to hit them where they ain't. I figured, well, here's a niche market I think is underserviced. So we started developing not just programs, but really a service team that was focused on real estate investors. So when you call us and you do something creative, whether it be subject to, lease optioning and all that, we're going to be able to not just empathize with you, but sympathize with you. I invest in about 15 single-family properties in Butler County, Ohio myself with my wife and partners. And I joked earlier that if I didn't insure them, I'd probably never see them, because I swung a hammer in college and all that. I'm not going out to fix a roof or a leaky toilet or anything like that. So my investment is primarily done with partners. I invest with notes, I invest with my self-directed IRA and all that, but again, we can speak the language a little more so than most of your local agents can. Our company is national, as the name indicates. We work in all states when we need to, with brokers when we need to directly. We've built programs that are a little bit different than your typical policies. I know I shared a little bit of information earlier, but our programs are just that. They're not just a policy directly between an insurance company and an insured, but they're a program of different insurance coverages that may be underwritten by different companies behind the scenes. We built programs for renovators and rehabbers. We built programs for handymen. We've also built programs for landlords, especially in the 1 to 6 family arenas. So that's kind of our bailiwick, if you want to call it that. I am on the Cincinnati REIA board currently. I'm also on the industry partner council for National REIA, so I travel the country right now speaking to groups such as yours weekly. Weekly, yeah.
Okay.
I'll be in Baltimore next week, Phoenix the week after, and I think Detroit the week after that. So it's all over the country. Well, again, what I'm going to share with you today is really just a culmination of a lot of years of experience and a lot of questions we fielded, not just by me with prospects or clients, but by our staff. And it's a la the David Letterman top 10 list. We got the top 13 insurance myths. It started out with 10, but we kind of added a few more in there, and it ended up with 13. So they're just that. So bear in mind, as I go through this, since we're in such a small group, as long as I'm not mid-sentence, raise your hand and let's ask questions and interact, because I think it'll be a lot more enjoyable for me, because I've done this about 400 times. We go through that.
He said, are you doing 4 hours?
Yeah, 4. Now 3 hours and 55 minutes, actually, so we're good. We're into it a little bit now. The ticker's clicking down. We're in good shape. One of the first things I want to talk to everybody about is that one thing I'm going to probably mention a few times today is that too many people, I believe, use insurance as the basis of their asset protection strategy. I know you talked about an attorney was here speaking to the group at one point. The work that you do with your accountant, the work that you do with your legal advisor, your financial advisor, those types of people, that's where your foundation begins. In other words, what you do with your accountant is going to significantly affect what you do with your attorney and vice versa. So what I consider your insurance to be is not so much that foundation, and the analogy we've used is the insurance is the archer and the watchtower, the work that you do with the legal advisor, the accountant, the CPA, that's kind of your castle walls and your moat. It's kind of a corny little analogy, but if you change your perspective a little bit, you'll understand that that is the most important thing of what you do. We kind of mentioned it early on before we started here that when you're talking to an attorney, and anybody that ever tries to tell you that, oh yeah, you'll be suit-proof. You're never suit-proof. You want to build a strategy to make sure that your stuff is behind those castle walls and not there hanging out, or ever leave the bridge. Was it the drawbridge? You never want the drawbridge open either, I guess, unless there's a couple archers there ready to pick some things off. So that's the first myth, really, is insurance is exclusive of estate tax and financial planning. I've said before that those advisors, they really need to dance with one another. Not to say that every month you need to get those people together, because I know they all charge hourly rates. But periodically, if you have a question that you think is specific to a tax issue, and you may run that same question by your attorney, just to make sure that what you do on one side of it doesn't affect some work you've done on the other side of it. So that's your first myth, is that insurance is not exclusive of those other issues when it comes to dealing with your advisors. Second, again, these are in no necessary order. Second myth is being named as an additional insured on your existing homeowner's policy is sufficient when you're investing subject to or other type of creative financing. Is anybody ever here invested in a property subject to or subject to a mortgage?
Yep.
Yeah, lease options, those types of things. I was a moderator for a while on one of the, call what it is, the real estate social networking sites. And what I did most of the time was go in there and answer questions fairly anonymously on how not to do things. What's Mom always say? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, or you get that for what you pay, those types of things. If you've ever invested subject to, in a quick nutshell, subject to, you're basically buying the property subject to the mortgage. The person that holds the mortgage no longer owns the property, but they're still responsible for the mortgage. There's the old infamous due on sale clause that I almost would guarantee it today. If that mortgage is paid today, they ain't calling any mortgage due right now. It's just not happening. But the point is, don't try to skim or try to circumvent the process of insurance, especially when you now own that property. What I've heard a lot of people try to do or try to accomplish is they bought it from Fred. Fred was the prior owner. Fred still holds the mortgage. Mortgage companies want to know where Fred is on that insurance policy. Well, the point is, too many people think, well, I'm just going to name me as an additional insured on Fred's policy, and that way the mortgage company's happy, and I don't have to worry about them calling the loan due. Well, there's a couple problems with that, not the least of which is a basis of a horror story of a prospect at the time, but a client now. That situation occurred. Fred was the first named insured on the insurance policy. I had about a $4,000 fire with a $500 deductible. This is a few years back. I wouldn't recommend a $500 deductible anymore. The insurance company is obligated to that first name insurance.